Welcome to Mission DIY. I'm Maria. Today I'm going to be installing some PEX pipe, and I'm going to be tapping into this line up here. It's a 3/4 inch PEX pipe, and connect it up here, run it across the ceiling, down the wall, and then down into where it needs to go for my sink. This is for a basement bar sink. It's pretty easy to do, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. First thing, I have to cut the rings off of this 90 up here and add a T. So I'm going to be doing that with a Dremel.
This is where the bar sink will be going in our basement. I designed the layout using SketchUp, which really helped visualize the space. The utility closet will be here, and next to it is where the kitchenette and bar area will go. I already had some leftover PEX tubing and fittings in both 3/4 inch and 1/2 inch from a previous project. I knew I'd need some additional tubing and fittings for this run, so I stocked up ahead of time with a variety of fittings in different sizes and configurations. One of the most frustrating things for me is getting halfway through a project and realizing I can't move forward without another trip to the store. So planning ahead made this install go much smoother. I got a little bit ahead of myself here and almost forgot to turn off the water.
I guess I should shut the water off first. That would be a good idea.
Yikes, that would have been a huge mess. So I'm taking my time here and being really careful when cutting these PEX rings off. The goal is to remove the ring without nicking the tubing at all. I know there is a special tool made for removing rings, but it requires you to cut the PEX and the fitting off first. My goal wasn't to save the fitting, it was to keep the length of the PEX and the fitting right where it is. Because there is a fitting that routes up to the bathroom pretty close, and there isn't much length of PEX in between. So I wanted to keep as much as possible, without adding another fitting. Plus, why buy another tool if you don't need to? A Dremel is one of those must-have tools in my book. It's useful for so many different jobs around the house. Well, after fighting with this for a while, I finally gave up and cut the tubing. The rings really lock the PEX into the fitting more than you'd think. I was able to cut just one side off, and then I used pliers to pull the fitting out. Should have just done this from the beginning. Turns out hindsight is 20/20. Once the old fitting is removed, it's time to prep for the new connection. Make sure the cut is straight and clean. Slide the ring onto the PEX first, then fully seat the fitting inside the tubing. It's important that the tubing is pushed all the way onto the fitting before crimping. Now I'll position the ring about 1/8 of an inch from the end of the tubing and crimp it down. Some fittings have a little spacer piece that helps you position the ring just right. One of the things that frustrates me the most is not being able to find a tool when I need it. Russ and I are both guilty of it. We'll use something, set it down, get distracted, and forget to put it away. If I used it, there's a decent chance I'll remember where I left it. But if Russ used it, forget it. That tool is basically gone. I do it too, but Russ just has more patience than I do, and he seems to have better eyes. Funny enough though, those moments have actually strengthened my faith. Tool hunting gives me a chance to slow down, take a breather, and to be grateful for the small things. I'm especially thankful for when I find what I'm looking for, right where it actually belongs.
Oh, it's in here. Wow. I found it. This is the no-go, so it should not fit around. Should be a little bit tighter. Okay, and then this one is a for sure go. All right, cool.
One of the cool things about PEX is how flexible it is, which makes it really easy to run along walls and around obstacles, as long as the turn isn't too sharp. For tighter turns though, I like using 90-degree elbow fittings. A lot of it does come down to personal preference, but I like keeping the PEX line straight, lined up, and organized. For larger sweeps though, the tubing can bend on its own without any problem. This is where I use a reducer fitting. Our main water lines are 3/4 inch, but once you get closer to the sinks, 1/2-inch tubing is all you need. The reducer makes it easy to transition from 3/4 inch down to 1/2 inch.
There, and then I can come off of there with my stub out. I'll just cut these.
Don't forget to install shutoff valves. Check your local code to see if it's required, but even if it's not, I highly recommend it. You'll want to put valves underneath the sink, to the faucet, and the dishwasher. But being able to shut off water to an entire room makes repairs way easier, whether it's under a sink or behind the fridge. Maybe it's overkill, but hey, it's my house and I do what I want.
Here's a small mistake I made. When the valve is open, the handle should be pointing in the direction of water flow. I installed mine upside down. So the water is coming down this way, and when this is open, it should be pointing down here. Mine actually is going to be pointing up. And then when the water is shut off, the valve should be perpendicular to your pipe.
So Russ asked me to add a water hookup for a refrigerator or ice maker. So I cut the cold water line where I want to install the hookup.
Russ picked up this ice maker outlet box. I'll drop a link to it in the description below. But installation is pretty straightforward. You attach it to the wall where you want it, and you slide your crimp ring onto the PEX, connect it to the built-in PEX fitting, and you attach your main water run from your wall, and then you're ready to hook up the water line for your fridge or ice maker or appliance. It also has this cool little built-in valve. I'm going to be using the same PEX tools here, and I'll break those down later in the video. This box also comes with a flange. It goes on after the drywall, so everything has a clean, finished look. Okay, so I'm installing this right below the height of where the countertop is going to be, and although there's no countertop behind the fridge, I just don't want to be able to see it really. And I do want to keep it above my main water line run because the PEX line comes down from here.
We do have a small fridge planned for this spot, but it doesn't have an ice maker, and honestly, we're not planning to replace it anytime soon. But be like a scout and always be prepared. When the wall is open and everything's accessible, there's no better time than right now to add it. Future us will be thankful. And if we never use it, that's fine. At least now you know how to install one.
Okay, so now all I have to do is put crimp rings on and crimp it all down.
Here I am securing the new water lines to the studs so that they don't eventually droop or cause strain on the fittings. For under the sink, I'm using 1/2-inch stub outs in copper, which will provide a sturdy base for my faucet connections. You definitely don't want PEX just coming out of the wall, so use these stub outs. I've got 3 here, hot and cold for the faucet, plus another hot line for the dishwasher. This is where my design consideration came into play. I want the connections to be accessible and not behind the future sink where I can't reach them. I also don't want them to be right behind the drain or a garbage disposal. So I have them off to the side and lower than the bottom of a sink so they'll be accessible and out of the way.
Alright, all the water lines are run, and now I'm just going to crimp everything and make sure that it passes the go, no-go tester thing. The only things that I have crimped are up on the ceiling, and there's a couple over here that are crimped, but I just like to make sure everything lines up first before I crimp everything. Here's a quick look at the PEX tools I actually used for this project. At a minimum, you'll need a PEX cutter, a crimp tool, and crimp rings in various sizes. The cutter gives you clean, straight cuts, which are really important for good connections. This is my main crimp tool. It does need a bit of room because the handles open wide, but it's easier on your hands and it gives you solid leverage. Plus, there's that very satisfying click. I also have this smaller crimp tool for tight spaces. It works the same way, but it definitely takes more hand strength to use it, so I only use it in tight spaces and when I need to. After crimping, I always check the connection with a go or no-go gauge. The go side should slide over the ring and the no-go side shouldn't. If it doesn't pass either of these, then the ring needs to be removed or re-crimped.
One last quick note. There are two main types of PEX, PEX A and PEX B, and you want to make sure your tools match the type of PEX you're using. PEX A is more flexible and can expand and return to shape, so it's great for tight bends and freeze resistance. The downside is it requires specialized expansion tools, which can be more expensive. PEX B is a little stiffer, but it's widely available, more affordable, and uses crimp or clamp rings like these. It's very reliable and a common choice for residential. Compared to copper, both types of PEX are easier to install. They require fewer fittings and aren't prone to corrosion. Copper is durable and time-tested, but it is more expensive, it's less forgiving, and it takes more skill to install. I'm using PEX B with crimp rings to stay consistent with the rest of the house.
Okay, now it's time to test everything. I'm going to turn the water back on and check each connection for leaks. I'm going to be looking over every fitting and valve. If anything drips, I'll fix it now before the walls go up. First the cold. Well, no major leaks so far. Water is going through there. It's all good up here. All right, no leaks. I'll turn the water off and start cleaning up. This video is part of my basement finishing series. So if you want to follow along with the full build, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications on the next video. And if you're tackling a similar project or you just enjoy honest DIY builds, check out our other videos linked below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you right here for the next project in my basement.